Hello everybody, Hammerman here, back again with another custom camo. This time we're going to be doing a ghillie wrap. Now the ghillie wrap is for people who want to change the look of their camouflage on their marker or on their hunting rifle. They want to keep it up with the seasons, or maybe they're going to a different terrain and they want to make it look like that. Anyway, this isn't against anybody doing spray can or hydro dip. Those are both excellent techniques. Yeah, so let's get to our ghillie wrap. So this is my A5. Now this ghillie wrap has been on since the start of the season. I was going for a dead grass kind of look, along with a mix of live grass. Now this is my second ghillie wrap. The first ghillie wrap was too green, as you can see with that buttstock. I'm also going to be taking off my buttstock, which has a defect in it. So it's loose right now, and if the other part goes, my spring will just fly out the back and I'll be done in a game. Oh, my cat. Awesome. You know, I'm trying to do a video. Oh, get down. Come on, bud. Okay. This dye method is very friendly for people that don't know what they're doing with dyeing. I wanted to do this method to show you how accessible this can be for you and how easy it can be for you. You can choose any different colors, any different patterns. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. You can get burlap at your dollar store. You're going to need some kind of dye. In this case, I'm just going to use forest green, a spoon, plastic container, again, one you don't want to eat from anymore. You don't need a pitcher if you don't want. Just really something to stir the dye in. You can use the same container. I just did it this way because I have the materials. As well as some boiling water. First thing you want to do is soak the burlap. Next thing you want to do is mix your dye. Add some dye into the pitcher. Yep, about that much. Add the boiling water. Yeah, give it a swirl. Little swish around. You just want to make sure all the dye pigment is dissolved. Get your spoon. You're going to need that. Give it a stir. That's probably good enough. Put that aside for now. Go back to your burlap. I can't work with it like this. I'm going to straighten it out. Ta-da! I have used this burlap before, as you can see. That weak green you see in the burlap is just going to give it a bit more depth. Might as well give that another stir. So now I've gone ahead and folded my fabric in two different ways. It's not important what shape the fabric is in right now. It's more important of what side of the fabric I put in the dye. So the way I've folded it and the way I'm going to be putting it into the dye, I'll be getting some vertical lines as well as some horizontal lines. This is the side that's going to get the dye. And this is the one that's going to be long horizontal strips of green right along that edge. Throw an elastic around it. Do the same with the triangular piece. That's the side that's going to get the dye. That's the side that's going to stay dry. It's going to go right along that edge. You want to keep everything tight together, so throw an elastic around it. We've put both the burlap pieces in the container, and now we're going to add our dye. Water in this case is only the vessel that gets the dye to the burlap. Here I have about 1.5 inches of coverage. I'm going to put it in the microwave for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is a piece of burlap I have dyed previously, more of a jungle pattern. I'm going to be using this in combination with the other ones to put together on my marker. Don't worry about the frayed end. We're going to actually use that. It's perfect. So the barrel ghillie is fine. We're just going to be adding some green pieces to give it some more depth. The ghillie on the body, however, is coming loose. It's starting to fray, and it's time for me to redo it. We're just going to check on our burlap. The 2.5 minutes is up, and I just wanted to see how it's absorbing. Looks like it's absorbing great, so we're going to put it back in the microwave for another 2.5 minutes, and by that time, it will be done. You want to rinse it under the water. Some of the dye may come out at this point. You want to keep rinsing it until all the dye comes out and the water runs clear. So this is the wet strips of burlap, and what you want to do is unfold it, and you'll see that dark horizontal green line. That's what I was talking about. We'll unfold the other piece of burlap, and this one has the vertical lines. This is the helmet cam. I'm not using it as much. I didn't like the image I was getting inside, and I didn't like the way it distorted the image. First, I'll start just by cutting off all the excess pieces and completely removing all the burlap that's on the body. The back of my A5 stock has broken. This is by Kill House. This is the collapsing articulating, and it's underneath that pin, so I'm just going to take it off and hopefully get that part serviced. If you've ever taken off the back of this, make sure you hold down or else it's going to come flying out at you. We're going to reuse the Ghillie Wrap. We're going to use it for anything that we can. Now the parts that we need to keep in mind: selector switch, the grip, trigger, foregrip or broomstick, cocking lever, cyclone feed system. Now since I'm reusing a piece of the burlap, it's going to make this part a little bit easier, but if you're starting with a fresh piece, just make sure to put a little hole in it, and you can pull that directly over your broomstick handle or your forestock. Next thing I just want to talk about is all I'm doing here is I'm just wrapping it around the largest sections of my marker. I just want to get the most square footage coverage without obstructing any of the action. I usually find that if I start with the broomstick, go to the back, work my way along the front, I get the most coverage out of the gate. Now, obviously I don't have enough to keep going, so all I'm going to do here is just tie it off along that section. I'm going to double check here to make sure it doesn't interfere with the cocking lever. Now these knots don't have to be fancy. These are more or less just quick, get it done. They're just to hold the material in place. Next thing you want to do is grab the freshly dyed burlap about 1 inch away from the edge and start cutting it at the end. Now it's important you don't cut the very end where the thread actually wraps around the burlap, keeping the end together. Here I'm going a little bit tighter. That doesn't much matter though. The reason why you don't want to cut the end is because that's the most structural part, and we're going to use that as a tie for the entire marker. After both sides are cut, start to pull apart the ends of the burlap to have exposed frayed ends. You want this. This will give your marker or hunting rifle a texture and detail that closely mimics foliage. Now what I've done is I've taken that piece and made a hole, pulled it apart, but not enough to make the whole thing come apart. So I make my hole, and now I'm just sizing it out. I want this piece of burlap to go from my barrel all the way to what would be my stock, but since I've taken it off, just to the butt of the gun. Now I'm going to make a hole at the other end and slide either end over its respective part, holding it in place. Next, I'm going to repeat the process with a different piece of burlap. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to wind it up the barrel. So once I get to the end, I'm just going to grab one of the repurposed pieces of burlap and just tie it around the end. Once I've got the tip of the barrel secured, I'm going to just do this all the way along the barrel. Once I've done the barrel, I'm going to move right along to the body. To make sure to leave about an inch remaining. Now that that burlap is partially secured over the body, I've decided to take another strip of burlap and tie all my short pieces together. Now that I have a long strip of burlap, I'm going to make a loop and tie a knot. I'm going to then place the other end through the loop, and that's going to make sure that while I go about doing this, it's going to remain tight. Pick a spot on your marker on your hunting rifle that you know will be secure, that won't do any moving around. Here, since I need to secure this piece, I figure the cyclone feed is the perfect spot to start. So I just put the loop around that, tie it tight, and go around the marker a number of times, making sure to keep clear of any moving parts or any parts that I have to manually switch or hold. You see here it's a bit loose. If any of your strands end up becoming loose, just tie those strands to other strands. Here, I'm just going to use this small piece and tie it all together. And voila, you're done. You have a brand new, fully ghillied up marker or hunting rifle. Here I'm just going to double check all the moving parts and make sure they're free from obstruction. Hopper cap, no problem. Good snap. Better check that cyclone feed. Yep, smooth action. I always love doing these burlap wraps because you can change them according to the environment. It's very easy and quick and cheap to change the color, and they're so effective. This here's an old picture of me when I just got into paintball. First time I ever did a ghillie wrap on my hopper. Notice how invisible it is. Oh, almost forgot. This is how the burlap turned out once it was fully dried. I hope you enjoyed how to ghillie up your marker. Be sure to like and subscribe, but more importantly, be sure to send me your ghillie wrap photos. Let me know how it turns out for you.